Hi, I'm Shayla with Revolting Science Resources, a company designed to bring the principles of project management to academic scientists. Today's video is going to be a little different than the videos you'll normally see on my channel. I'm actually doing a collaboration with Dr. Kate Sleeth of Educated STEM, where we both share some of the things that we wish we knew before starting grad school. This will be part of a series of videos where we cover a few different topics and some advice that we have. But these videos are going to be split between both my YouTube channel as well as the Educated STEM YouTube channel. There'll be a link in the description box below where you can check out Kate's channel and see some of the other videos in this series. Also, we'd love to hear some of your thoughts as well. What are some things you wish you knew before starting grad school? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comment section below this video. But with that little bit of intro covered, let's jump into the conversation between me and Kate. Hi, I'm Shayla with Revolting Science Resources. And today I'm doing a video with Dr. Kate Sleeth where we're sharing some things that we wish we knew before getting a PhD. And today the topic is going to be on academic culture, but this is part of a larger series that we've been doing on both of our YouTube channels. So I'll let Dr. Kate I'll let Kate introduce herself soon and just share a little bit more about herself. But if you want to see all the videos that we've been doing for this series, be sure to look on both of our YouTube channels.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate. I'm the founder of Educated STEM, where I talk about various career and personal and professional development. So I'm very excited to be talking about academic culture. It's not something I've ever tackled before. So it'll be a fun one, Sheila.
Yeah, and I think honestly it can feel a little tricky. I think it's also so dependent on the academic, like the institution that you're at and the people that you're around and so many other things. So we're going to try to tackle portions of it, but it's a big topic. I think though one of the things that I'd wish I'd known before doing my PhD was just to build a really large and diverse support team as early as possible. So I actually, at the university that I attended, there actually was a program that was specifically designed for underrepresented minorities that actually paired you with a mentor that was not in your school. So essentially, there's someone that likely is not really connected to whatever topic. Like, I got my PhD in neuroscience. In theory, they could have been someone that was like an English professor or in any field throughout the whole university. I actually happened to get an advisor who was a biomedical engineer. So it actually was not that unrelated. There's many collaborations going on with the neuroscience department and that department. But I think one thing that was really valuable about that I didn't even realize until much later was having someone that I regularly met with. I got to just talk about different things that I was experiencing throughout grad school. I talked about finding a mentor, talked about writing papers, I talked about applying for grants and going to conferences. And obviously, I had my own mentor as well to kind of provide some support for that. But it was nice to also have different perspectives, different opinions, have support also whenever I'm like struggling with my mentor. I think that's something we don't talk a lot about is if you're having issues with the people in your lab or your mentor specifically, who do you go to? And this was another way that essentially I got some support from another professor. I think though, honestly, I wish I would have even created more connections with some of the PIs as well as other grad students, postdocs at my institution. I think that was one that was kind of thrust upon me that ended up being incredibly valuable. But these are something that you can create on your own too. It doesn't need to be part of any formal program. A lot of PIs are totally willing to kind of help mentor people, especially too if you have a committee, in the US. A lot of people are required to create committees anyway. And I think a lot of the time it's like I try to meet with my committee as little as possible, not talk to them much in between. But these are people that also you can kind of lean into, create more connection with, especially in between committee meetings. And then that provides additional support potentially, especially if you end up needing it later on. But also overall, grad school's hard and the more support you can have, the better.
Yeah, I love that. I will say that having been an associate dean of a graduate school, the more people you know, the easier it will be. And the better they know you, the more they can help. So I used to teach every single graduate student the responsible conduct of research course. So once I became the person who was first involved and then was responsible for it, I knew every single graduate student because I had had them in a classroom for hours. And so it was very easy for them to amble into my office, and usually they'd be like, I'm just coming to check in. And then eventually after, 10 minutes of chit chat or whatever, it would come out that they actually had a question and they wanted some advice about whatever it was. And I wasn't the only person on campus who did that, but I was the only person who gave you a cup of tea and some English chocolate, which I think definitely helped. But knowing who you can go to if you just need a little bit of advice, especially as Shayla said, if you have issues within your lab, because you are going to be needing help from the postdocs, the graduate students, the technicians, and your mentor, your PI. And so if there are issues, we can kind of nip them in the bud before they get really big, because I have been the person having to mediate between graduate students and faculty members. And then I've had to help people move labs or get an additional mentor who will kind of help mediate that relationship over a long period of time. You don't want that to happen if you can possibly avoid it. But you also need to know who on your campus is the person that you go to for assistance, or who you feel most comfortable going to assistance for if that person isn't someone that you want to talk to. Hopefully there is someone else who also has the power and the ability to help you. And one of the things that I'm going to advise is that you are very visible with the various faculty members. That means that if they're teaching you in a classroom, you speak up. They need to know who you are. You can't just be a nameless face in the room, especially if you want to go to them for advice. I know people who have been used as references and they're like, I don't even remember who this person is. And also they weren't asked if they would give a reference. So this reference request came out of absolutely nowhere. And they were like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. This also happened to me a lot because I ran the summer academy. So every year we had almost 80 to 100 students on campus. And so I've been put down as a reference before now, and I've struggled to think, who on earth is that? So if you're writing a letter, you don't want to send the letter saying, yes, this person attended summer academy between these years, well, these dates, and this was their mentor, and I probably had their project title written down. If that's all I'm giving, that isn't a reference. That is just saying that you were there. You want someone who knows you, who can talk about your abilities and maybe what you were like as a person. That is a reference, and that will help you. If you just get a factual thing, yes, this person was here, that will hinder you. That won't help. So you need to be known by the people, the faculty members, the administration, so that A, they can help you physically at the time that you're in graduate school, and then should you want references afterwards, that they remember who you are.
Yeah. And I think that's so great because I think a lot of the time we tend to think in the moment and not in the future. And so even if everything's going super great in your lab at the moment, like you never really are thinking about like creating relationships and having foundation for when you might need some help. Also, when you're thinking about future careers and needing letters of rec and things like that, I think you tend to focus on where you're at, which is like I'm in the middle of grad school, everything's failing, and I'm just like struggling to continue each day. I'm not maybe thinking about maintaining these relationships with different faculty members for the future. But I think that's really great advice. And I think too, like another thing I'll kind of mention on this topic of academic culture is just that there is some level of like internal politics that exist within academia. I think this is really probably part of the talk that's a bit more controversial or has a lot of other stories that can go along with it. I think, though, that's something that I wish I'd known before going into grad school is just that as much as maybe sometimes you don't want to believe that the politics exist or that, everyone is just there for the purest of reasons, or even sometimes people are, but they do things that unintentionally can be harmful, that maybe they just literally have some levels of bias or unconscious bias that they just don't even recognize. The reality is that totally exists within academia. And in some ways, that's how it was built. If we think about the history of academic institutions, they were not meant for everybody. They were meant to exclude certain people. And I think sometimes that kind of just ends up being part of the culture that exists, even far removed in time from the kind of foundations of academia. So I think I don't want to scare anyone, or I don't want it to sound so dramatic. And I don't think too that this is an experience obviously everybody has, but I do think it's important to just consider that, sometimes there are going to be situations that you're put in that are not always the best, and that there are these kind of politics and sometimes like this level of I don't love the concept of playing games, but sometimes you got to play the game so that you can ultimately get what you came here for, which is likely a degree and a future career.
Yeah, there's definitely internal politics. I have definitely been given a presentation and known that there was going to be a professor in the audience who would try to shred my research, nothing to do with me, because they didn't like my PI. And so you just have to realize, this is not personal. They are literally trying to get at you, but get them through you, which is so unpleasant and unnecessary, but it happens all the time, especially if you go to a conference and, there's always going to be competition between professors. Maybe they have dueling ideologies or something. And so, someone from that lab comes, they're not going to give you an easy time. Likewise, you might go to their poster and be like, this is rubbish. I don't believe any of this. You're just wrong. Your hypothesis is wrong. So, you're probably going to be guilty of it as well at times, but it doesn't help. And I've definitely been in meetings where people just don't like each other. And so they might get into a tit for tat argument and you're just like, oh, we just need to move on. I'm calling a vote. Let's figure out what this is, just to move on. So, you always think when you leave school, all of the pettiness, all of the kind of playground drama, it disappears and everyone becomes these adults. No, it just becomes adult drama.
Yes, exactly. And I think too that at least for me, I think sometimes it's probably useful to just remember that adult drama exists, and sometimes it has nothing to do with you. And even though I think sometimes I love leaning into like the logic of things, of like this is just not logical, or like this is maybe how a mature person would behave, or whatever it is. Sometimes that's just not the reality of the situation you're in, and you're going to drive yourself crazy if you're trying to make it that when it's just not.
Sad but true.
Yes. So that was a little about kind of some things we wish we knew before starting our PhD around academic culture. Again, we have some other videos in this series that you should definitely check out on both of our channels. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
So that's it for this video, where Dr. Kate Sleeth and I shared a little about some of the things that we wish we knew before starting grad school. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like it, feel free to subscribe not only to the Revolting Science Resources YouTube channel, but also the Educated STEM YouTube channel. Again, the link to the Educated STEM YouTube channel will be in the description box below. And that's also where you can go to check out some of the other videos that are part of this series. But that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.